Hi, this is Madeleine from Sonic Bloom. As an Ableton certified trainer, I was granted early access to the Live 12 beta, and I've had time to familiarize myself with all the new features. In this video, we're going to examine Meld. Meld is a new MIDI instrument with extensive sound design options that is capable of MPE as well. Anything from evolving textural to atonal sounds, harmonic effects, and rhythmic drones can be produced. You can even use it to mimic sounds like bubbles or rain. You can effortlessly create and combine two radically different sounds or textures using its two oscillators. After a brief sound demo, we will examine its parameters in detail. Okay, so now that you've gotten an idea of what you could achieve with Meld for different types of sounds, we're going to dive deep into the parameters so that you can either tweak presets or create your own. And so we've got two engines, A and B, that can be independently turned on and off. I'm going to turn B off for now so I can show you individual shapes or curves. And so here we've got a lot of different curves that we can set. And the ones where you can see B hashtag in brackets, that means flats and sharps, those are actually scale aware, and the whole device is scale aware, and this can be turned on here on the top right, and that can change the sound quite dramatically. I'm going to turn this off quickly again, and here you can set the oscillator pitch in octaves, up or down, and in semitones, if you got scale awareness off, if you have it on, this changes to scale degrees. So here, if I change this to 3, this is the third scale degree, so a third. And since there are major and minor thirds, depending if it's a major or minor scale or chord, this can make a big difference in the sound, and it will sound more harmonious when it's turned on. And when I turn this off, it's going back to semitones. I'm going to keep this on. And then you can detune also in Sense, and this goes for both engines. And so yeah, we've got different shapes, curves that we can set here, either with the drop-down menu, or you can dial through them here. And then we can set the shape and tone. The macros actually change depending on what you've selected as a shape. Set this back to 0. Just going to quickly go through them. So here you can see how the parameters are different depending on what shape you've selected. So this is just the initial sound. I would recommend you actually go through them and adjust the dials here and see what you like sound-wise, because I tried shooting this and it takes about 5 minutes to just quickly go through all of them. So the further we go, the more crazy the sounds are. So filtered noise can be quite nice if it's set to narrow. And bit crunch, crackle, rain, and then we've got bubble. I'm going to go back to basic shapes for now. And the same goes for engine B. I'm going to turn this back on so you can hear the sound difference. Then up here we've got a limiter for the mixer section here at the end. So this can be turned on, so that you're not overshooting depending on what you've set as well, because depending, it can get quite loud. We've got poly and monophonic that we can use. And then we've got polyphonic. We can have up to 12 voices I can play. For mono, we can set it to legato. Let's play a different clip. Can turn this on or off, so if a new MIDI note should re-trigger the envelope, so the amplitude envelope from the beginning or not. Then we've got spread. And we can stack different voices per engine. So right now it's off, so it's just one voice, 2 or 3. So that clearly makes it sound more full, but it also requires more CPU, just so that you're aware of it. I'm going to turn this off for now. And then we've got drive. And we can set the output volume for everything. And then here, for the mixer section, we've got the panning for both engines and the volume, so we can adjust how loud they're going to be in the mix to each other. And then here, when we set the tone, if I'm going into the positive, this will reduce the low frequencies more and more. When I'm going to the left, this actually reduces the higher frequencies more and more. Let's set the second one maybe to the sub. It's quite nice. And now here in the middle section, we've got different things that we can use as modulation sources. Envelopes, LFOs, the Modulation Matrix, MIDI sources for modulation, and MPE sources. If I'm clicking on here, I can actually unfold all the modulation sources and targets at once, which can be quite nice because that means you can actually change what you want to modulate or how much pretty quickly, while also adjusting the envelopes or LFOs. Okay, let's start with the envelopes. So we've got an amplitude envelope and a modulation envelope. They're typical. We've got ADSR for both, and for the amplitude envelope we've got attack, decay and release slopes that we can set. We do have this as well for the modulation envelope if we click on here, but we also have initial, peak and final level. So the initial is the initial level or value of the envelope when it's triggered. Peak is for the peak, and then final is for when it's released. Okay, and when I click here, I can link both of the envelopes for the engine, so for A and B. So when I, for example, adjust the attack, so that we get a slower fade in of the sound, you can already hear that it's been adjusted for both. So when I click on here, you can see that has happened. When I click on it again, it jumps just simply back so that you can adjust it independently. But it can be quite useful if you wanted the two engines to work together. And so you can simply adjust these here by clicking in the display and adjusting things, or by setting things in here. I'm going to double click on all of them to set it back to default, so that the next thing is more audible. And here we can set different envelope loop modes. So with none, it's just treated as a simple ADSR envelope, but listen to how this changes here with the trigger set. So sustain is ignored here as well. But you can hear that it's looped quicker. So this definitely can be worth playing around with as well. Then with the modulation envelope, this is, as the name suggests, for modulation, so you can adjust it as needed for what you want to achieve, for the parameters that you want to modulate with with that envelope. We've got the same envelope loop modes here as well. And next up, we've got the LFOs. So we have 2 LFOs and then also an LFO effects section for LFO 1. So we have different shapes that we can use. Basic shapes when we adjust this. Then here with the shape setting, you can switch from sine or morph through sine to triangle, saw up, all the way to rectangle. And so right now we're not hearing anything because this is for modulation purposes. So I think I want to go to panning. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to take this out. But if you want basically a quick access to any parameter that you want to modulate, so here we've got the targets, we can simply click on what we want to modulate. And so in this case, I would like to modulate the panning, or like let's go back to tone and then to panning. As you see, like when I click on a parameter, this is pre-selected for you so you can see where it is. So I want to set this all the way up so that's clearly audible. So right now it's going hard left, right because we got the rectangular shape. And then we can adjust the rate. Currently it's set to hertz. But we could also set it to synced note measures. And then we can use fold to kind of adjust the shape. And then here we can also achieve a phase offset if needed. And this is the retrigger to have the LFO1 restart at the same position in its phase whenever a new note is triggered. And currently, as you can see here, the LFO1 effects is basically, until you make any changes, the same thing as the LFO1 in the shape that you've created with the settings here. So when I'm changing this here to ramp, for example, have other options as well. And you can see that the parameters change in what their function is as well. Pulses, and then we've got pulsate as well. Amount of chance and length you can set here as well. And yes, as you could see, LFO1 effects takes all the settings in its shape initially from the LFO1, but then we've got effects that we can add. 2 of them. And here we've got quite a lot of different things that we can change the LFO1 FX curve with. So we could just go here. And then we could use that as well. What could we? We could take this one and use the LFO1 FX. Perhaps in this direction. So lots of options there. And for FX2, we've got the exact same ones, just set to ramp because it's the fade in. So we can change the curve here quite a lot this way as well. And then we also have an LFO2, which has just the usual suspects for waveforms, so sine, triangles, or up and down, rectangle, and random sample and hold. And then we can select another thing, say for example here the aux with the LFO2. Hertz or in synced note measures. So yeah, this is the LFOs, and we've got a retrigger as well here for retriggering the LFO with a new MIDI note being played. As I already mentioned, these are the targets, as it says. So from top to bottom, you've got all the targets. If you can't see anything, click on it and it'll show you this in a slightly lighter gray, depending on the theme you're using. So you can easily find what you want to adjust. And here you've got the envelopes, the LFOs, and spread as modulation as well, plus different MIDI and MPE options to use to modulate parameters as well. So velocity, pitch, pitch bend, pressure, modulation wheel, random, note, pitch bend, and slide are options. And so then here on the right, we've got B cross modulation. And what this means is that the amplitude envelope, modulation envelope, LFO1, LFO1 FX, and LFO2 from the B engine, so from these settings, they can also be used to modulate parameters of the engine A. So that gives us even more possibilities of how we can modulate things. So basically, you shouldn't be ever able to run out of ways to modulate things and create very nicely evolving and changing presets this way. Okay. So then here we have some other settings for engine A and engine B. So first up, we've got oscillator key tracking. So when the oscillator key tracking is turned off, then the oscillator plays at a constant pitch of default C3 for all MIDI notes. So when I turn this off for both, I'm going to turn this off as well, because then that automatically turns the scale awareness for both oscillators off. It's still playing the same MIDI clip, right? And so if you're using this within a scale, it'll be the corresponding root note of the scale that you have set in your live set or in the MIDI clip. So this is, I got it set to C sharp major right now. And so yeah, you can either turn scale awareness on for everything, or you can just say like, I want it for the oscillator A, but not for the filter, and so on and so forth. So you got options to kind of change how both the oscillators and the filters will react to different notes and keys. And then we also have glide settings for each engine. So right now, well, that wouldn't make any sense because I don't have any overlapping MIDI notes, but I can just play this one and we're gonna turn this back on. So now you can hear we've got portamento or glissando, which we can turn on individually as well. So one can not have it on this at all, either, or both. And then, last but not least, we've got the filter section for each engine. They can be turned on and off as well. And then we've got considerable amount of options for filters. So let's try a little bit. And here the parameters change depending on what filter is set as well. Drive instead. Filter, so I'm making it a little bit more dirty sounding. Phaser. Redux. Making it more lo-fi sounding or not. Vowels. So if it sounds a bit more like A, E, so on, or U. Come filters. This is really pretty. Yeah, we've got this for both engines, of course. And I think one thing I might have forgotten to mention is that you can copy the parameters over from B to A or vice versa as well. Well, that's been long enough. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.